Hello, students. Today we are going to read a very famous poem written by one of the very famous and very notable playwrights, poet, musician, and whatnot. He is one of the famous persons and who has reshaped Bengali literature and Indian literature and music. His name is Rabindranath Tagore. We are going to read his poem, Where the Mind is Without Fear. Before delving into the poem and knowing the significance of the poem, let us first read something about the poet. Rabindranath Tagore was a Bengali polymath, a poet, musician, and artist who reshaped and changed the face of Bengali literature and music, as well as Indian art in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. He was the author of Gitanjali, and its profoundly sensitive, fresh, and beautiful verse was very important and was very significant in changing the shape and changing the structure of literature. He became in 1913 the first non-European to win the Nobel Prize in Literature. He is sometimes referred to as the Bard of Bengal. Now let us read the poem. Where the mind is without fear and the head is held high, where knowledge is free, where the world has not been broken up into fragments by narrow domestic walls, where words come out from the depth of truth, where tireless striving stretches its arms towards perfection, where the clear stream of reason has not lost its way into the dreary desert sand of dead habit, where the mind is led forward by thee into ever widening thought and action, into that heaven of freedom, my father, let my country awake. This is a very inspirational poem, and it really encourages and inspires people uh, to understand the significance of independence and liberty. The poem is basically written in a social context where India was struggling to achieve the independence, and therefore Rabindranath Tagore visualizes and he has a vision of a free and independent India, but there are certain guidelines and rules which he needs and which he emulates that people must follow. Where the mind is without fear and the head is held high. The first two things that he tells each and every human being, each and every person who is under slavery, under the foreign rule of the Britishers, he tells them that each and every citizen of India has to be fearless. Their mind has to be fearless, and they should be proud of who they are, their identity, what they are, and how they are. They should not feel restricted and limited to any kind of social and political constraints. The countrymen should be free from any fear of oppression if they are being oppressed or dominated by any external invasion or external force, which the people were in a state of panic or in a state of distress. Then their head should always be high. They should always be proud of what they are doing and how they are shaping themselves. He wishes that everyone's head should be very high and they should be dignified enough. That is very important according to him. Where knowledge is free. Regarding the factor of knowledge and education, we should really be very thankful to him that he was one of the most famous poets and playwrights who wrote the poems and plays in a very lucid and in a very colloquial language for the people to understand and appreciate his poems and plays. And also his novels. His novels are absolutely brilliant. The themes are very universal and loved by one and all. Where knowledge is free, he states that there should be a country where knowledge is absolutely free, and people should not vouch, should not be hindered by any other factors to acquire knowledge. Each and every children should be allowed to acquire knowledge, and knowledge should be interlinked with nature. That is why we know that he has also established the Vishwa Bharati Institution, where there are students who gather knowledge, but under the lap of the nature. The lap of nature is related with the knowledge that they acquire. So that is what he's saying. The knowledge should be free. There should not be any constraint, any limitation. And also the knowledge that you are gathering, the knowledge that you are acquiring should help you to understand the beauty and grandeur of nature, how nature has to be very much interlinked with the knowledge that you are gaining. they should not be forced to memorize some predetermined lessons. There should not be any predetermined or any kind of they should not be forced to remember or to remind, or rather to mug up lessons just for the sake of it. They should understand and they should question themselves that what is the significance and use of a predetermined lesson, or rather Rabindranath Tagore was against the curriculum or syllabus formula. He did not like it. He knew that each and every children will acquire knowledge only if they have the passion, if they have the if they are really interested in educating, in learning themselves. They should not be forced to do it. Next, where the world has not been broken up into fragments by narrow domestic walls. Here he exemplifies or states that the world has been broken up into a lot of divisions, there has been a lot of discrimination, there has been a lot of social and economic and political barriers which should not be there. These social evils or these social stigma is actually making the society much more hollowed, and these social evils are just like termites, and these social evils are ruining the integrity and the dignity of the nation. So the world should be devoid of such divisions or such discriminations, and should not be inflicted or affected by any domestic walls. The domestic walls means the walls of caste, class, religion, gender, whatever. A lot of discriminations were very prevalent during the pre-independence. So after India achieved their independence also, these discriminations and divisions were prevalent. So Rabindranath Tagore visualized a world where these discriminations, these divisions and these caste-based or class-based separations will be obliterated. Where words come out from the depth of truth, where tireless striving stretches its arms towards perfection. People should be truthful, they should be honest. Whatever they are doing, they should be honest about it. They should know the importance of being honest, the importance of being very much frank and very much open to their thoughts and expressions. They should try to work hard, and their working hard should be a continuous process. Patience and perseverance should be there. Patience, because you need to be very much patient, and you need to understand that life will give you the fruitful results if you allow life to be. You need to allow life to understand and realize the importance that you are throwing upon it. And you should be hardworking. You should work hard, and you should not wait for the results always. You should work hard, you should do your best, and then leave the rest to God. And your striving should be, your effort should be the best. And that is why, and also that is how, if you are continuously putting an effort, if you're continuously doing something, you will reach in a state of perfection. He also says that you should not be skeptical or doubtful about what you are saying or how you are trying to express yourself. Rather, whatever you are saying should be true, and if it comes from the core of the heart, people will understand it. They should not be superficial, there should not be anything hypocrite, and words should come out from the depth of your heart. It should assume that whatever you are saying is true. Everyone should work hard, as it has been told, and it should be state, it should be a zone where whatever you're doing, whatever effort you are trying to put, it is reaching towards a state of perfection. And you will only be perfect when you practice and practice and practice. As we all know, practice makes everybody perfect. So you need to practice, and you need to be always in a state of working. You should always work. There should be a state where you're always working and you're trying to work for the better for the next time. Where the clear stream of reason has not lost its way into the dreary desert sand of dead habit. Here, the poet is trying to distinguish between scientific and logical and rational thinking, and along with the prejudices, superstitions, and all the false beliefs that still prevails in some parts of the country. That should not happen. Prejudice, superstition, and false beliefs has no place where we are trying to encourage. Rather, we are trying to always be in a state where we promote rational, logical thinking. So the stream of reason has to be very clear and crystal, and it should not lose its way, because there is a lot of prejudice, a lot of superstition, a lot of false beliefs which have enveloped our mind. Our mind should be clear of those prejudices, those discriminations, superstitions, false beliefs. Okay, these things these things should not be in our mind or in our heart. They do not deserve to be there. What should be there, or what should be present is the clear stream of reason which is very clear, which is very crystal, and also very transparent, as we know, and we can question ourselves that what we are doing, why we are doing. There should be a reason for our actions, and that has to be the essence of life, rather than getting enveloped or getting covered by all these prejudices and false beliefs and all the rituals. They do not deserve to be in our mind and in our heart, because this will affect us. Where the mind is led forward by thee into ever widening thought and action. Our mind should be always filled up with thoughts and actions. Thoughts and actions should always be there, and we should always complement our thoughts with actions. We should be very open-minded, we should be very liberal, we should do something extraordinary out of our comfort zone, so that we can break the shackles of the narrowness, the shackles and the restrictions that we are bound with. We can break them, and we should do something which is extraordinary. Our mind should always lead towards something extraordinary, and the thought and action should complement each other. Whatever we are doing, whatever we are thinking, whatever opinions and beliefs we have, we should put them into action. Into that heaven of freedom, my father, let my country awake. At last, Rabindranath Tagore states that whatever conditions he has put forward, and the world that he has visualized with the guidelines that he has put forward, he has visualized a kind of an utopian world. If that world is achieved, if that state is achieved, if that zone is achieved, then each and every person will be able to realize, will be able to understand the real essence of freedom, and it will be a heaven of freedom. It will be a state where freedom is absolutely there, but it is a state of heaven. It's an abode of heaven. He requests and pledges and he pleads the Father, the Almighty, the God, that let my country awake. Let the people of the country awake. They should be spiritually, mentally, and physically. They should be awake. They should be awakened by the real essence of freedom, and all those conditions, all these rules, or rather all these things that he has mentioned in the poem, should be followed by each and every human being. If it is done, then all his countrymen will awake and will rise in a world or in a state where they can actually feel, where they can actually understand the essence of freedom, and how to make oneself self-sufficient, self-reliant, and also self-conscious. These three things are very much important for each and every human being to understand the essence of freedom in true sense. I hope the poem has been explained properly, and you have been able to understand the significance and relevance of the poem. This is a very universal poem, and it has been written with a lot of emotions and a lot of feelings. So please go through the poem, and it will help you to formulate the question answers in a better manner. Thank you. Have a nice day.